Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast with Ron and Kristin, where leadership meets entertainment. This podcast features stories with names and certain aspects that have been changed to keep submissions private. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast, where leadership meets entertainment. I'm your co-host, Kristin Sokolov, and I'm joined by my co-host, I know you love that, Ron, Ronnie Ward. How's it going?
It's going great. As you know, I'm selling my bachelor pad, and I'm going to buy a house. So, guys, if you have moved a lot, someone should give you a medal.
I know. Oh,
Kristin,
my gosh. Have you made friends with someone with a pickup truck yet?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay. Smart man.
Yeah, I had one today.
That's
I took
stuff.
a load of stuff to Goodwill. I tell my friend that the only thing better than having a truck is having a friend with a truck. I feel the same way about a boat.
Yeah, exactly. Especially the boat. My goodness. Well, today we are going to be talking about cults, why people join them, why they stay. I mean, $1 million question there. And why this topic is closer to everyday life than people realize.
Yeah, Kristin, and this isn't just about extreme groups. The psychology behind cults show up everywhere. Now, we only hear about the 1% of the major cults, where mass suicide, all kinds of things have happened. And I was telling you that I'm listening to a podcast about the Zionist Society cult. And oh my gosh, it's hard to believe how someone can manipulate that many people. This was a total sex cult in the name of some form of religion, but had underage girls. It was just unbelievable. So yeah, if you're looking for a good podcast, that one is very interesting. We'll stick that in the show notes, the name of it. Something like,
that'd be great.
It has an odd name. The Gardens of Evil.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
They did good with their clickbait name. That's a good one.
Though?
Yeah.
Almost
so
as good as the
smart.
Dirty Side of Leadership. So.
I know, right? Right below. Well, before we dive into the psychology, let's quickly walk through the common characteristics most cults use to influence and control. And, I think one of the first things we need to dive into, Ron, is the charismatic authoritarian leadership. We've touched on this before. A central figure is seen as uniquely gifted or even infallible. And their authority isn't questioned. And loyalty to the leader often outweighs loyalty to the truth. Insane.
It is. And there's a demand for absolute commitment. And I've noticed that you always have the one person that takes on this messianic character, and you're not allowed to question that individual.
Yeah.
They have the authority of Scripture or whatever it is. And a lot of the cults are religious cults.
You're right.
Now, what I started to say earlier, I got sidetracked with that podcast, is that there is small forms of cultish behavior in sports, in the office, in politics. There's a lot of things, and we're going to look at some of the dynamics of a cult. And Kristin knows this before we start recording. I'm considering telling a personal story, so stay with us.
Yeah, now I'm curious because I don't even know this story. So if you're considering it, we're going to have to pull that out of you. Oh my goodness. Well, something else, control of information. I mean, we see that even today in the mainstream media, right? And that's another piece that happens in these cults. So outside perspectives are discouraged. I mean, you can even scale it to look at North Korea, right? All these communist countries, they are also controlling information. Even Canada is doing this. So there's an us versus them mentality in doing this. And then messaging inside the group is tightly controlled.
I told someone today, Kristin, I believe technology has moved faster than psychology. So you get those algorithms. I don't care who you are. You sit there every day and you're listening to one particular newscast or something else.
Yeah.
You're going to get persuaded over time. And I don't think we were prepared for the amount of information overload that we're getting. So anyway,
it is a lot.
It is a lot. Back to this, there is a demand for absolute commitment. In other words, your family, your friends, your hobbies, all of that takes a back seat. You got to be committed to this belief system, this cult, this behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in talking with that, when we are watching, I'm sure you've seen like Datelines or 2020s, and they're talking about like a family member that had gone into a cult. The first thing they do is divide them or keep them from their friends and family.
Oh, that's exactly right. And then there is a suppression of doubt. You don't question, and even if you do, they've got an answer already pre-planned so that they can keep you from doubting. You believe in this messianic figure. You believe in what we're doing. And of course, we're special. I've got the answers.
It's like the ultimate gaslighting, really.
It is. That's a good point.
Yeah, they're going to have all that. The fifth thing, isolation. I was just touching on that. That is a huge one. The members are separated from their family. It's a social separation from non-members of whatever cult it is. And it creates that dependence on the group because we are tribal beings. And so that is very powerful.
Yeah, and I did some research on alphas, betas. They've disproved some of that, but there's definitely studies that show that there is, in any group, you could put a group of people in this room for 3 or 4 hours and a leader will emerge. A lot of times it's the person that talks first, the loudest, but they have to show competence or people, they'll, in other words, just because you're loud at first, people may look at you, but you're not going to be the long-term leader. But we're going to look at some of the characteristics of the leader. And folks, this is really interesting stuff. So hang with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, something to touch on here also is the emotional manipulation. And this can look like guilt, fear, shame, or even love bombing early on. And people are made to feel either special or flawed, and sometimes both, which is a real mind F.
Yeah, they absolutely make you feel so special, and it's almost exclusive. Like, I believe you could get into our group. You've got everything that we're looking for. The next, this is important, identity control. So they've got, you identify with them now. You're not yourself anymore. So there's beliefs, language, behavior, and even appearance. Some of these, even the sex cult, some women are wearing very wholesome, it looks like the 1930s, and yet inside, they're not wearing anything. It's pretty... It's pretty, they even have a lingerie. They make like lingerie. It's the craziest thing.
This is insane.
It is. It's right down
there.
Are
they stitching their own?
Yes. They had a sweatshop. These girls are sewing.
Oh my gosh.
It's right now. It's perfect for you, Kristin. You need to.
Sounds like something. I mean, this is like insane because I've read all about cults, listened to different things, but this one sounds unique. That is for sure.
It does. And finally, we've got exclusive truth. We are the only ones that have this truth. And the story that I guess I'm going to tell, it covers these categories perfectly.
Oh, yeah. You want to tell it now?
Let's finish these last two.
Okay.
Because
all right.
the 10th tenet there comes into play.
All right. Sounds good. Gradual escalation. Commitment builds slowly. Small steps lead to deeper involvement. And that's like where they're avoiding coming on too strong. So that's actually pretty smart. And then ultimately punishment for leaving. And that can include shunning, pressure, or fear tactics. Yeah. Or all three.
Yeah. If you look at Scientology, that's a big one. And I watched some of the people that have left Scientology. Leah Remini is the biggest name. And she talks about all the intimidation and fear tactics they used when she left the cult. But this story, I'm just going to say, was a really close relative, but it's pretty darn close. Starts off, and this is about the Jehovah's Witnesses. And they start off with the Bible studies, and we have the truth, and there's only 144,000 chosen, and they pride themselves on knowledge of the Bible. Now, there are scriptures that are twisted, and when you get deeper, you learn that Christ is Michael the Archangel, so his deity is definitely doubted. There's some truths, of course. There's some things that they understand that maybe mainstream Christianity doesn't, but they use that. So they start slow. That's why they start with a Bible study. So anyway, I had a family member that got into this, got his family into it, And because I was going to a more charismatic, mainstream Christian church, he felt that was the extreme betrayal and I was going to be damned. And
Oh, wow.
he had tried on the whole family. My mother's a devout Christian. She wouldn't even listen to him, but he tried. And ultimately, I started getting, he would write, this was amazing, but he would write 4- and 5-page handwritten letters about, trying to rescue me and
good Lord.
I was going to be damned and all that. And we ended up having, and it was terrible, but we ended up having a really bad argument when my aunt was on her deathbed in the hallway. And I kind of exploded. I guess I was vulnerable because I really loved my aunt, and it was just a difficult time. But when things started really getting bad, is his daughter ended up either getting pregnant by dating or, I know she eventually got married, but she married someone outside of the church and also got pregnant. So she was shunned. And the other family members were told you cannot talk to her. And of course, my parents were livid. They stepped in.
Yeah.
They stepped in and helped this girl. And it is definitely, I said something like, you definitely don't believe in the deity of Christ because you're doing the opposite of what he would do. But this was, even us attending a funeral of someone died, you could not stay in during certain parts.
Oh my goodness.
Everything was dictated. Now, I didn't go as deep, but if you walk through everything that you and I just talked about, including the shunning, but there was the isolation, suppression of doubt. You were not allowed to read some other Christian material. You were not allowed. And I had this other friend that actually went to our church in Virginia. She had got into college and went in the library and basically felt like she was doing something horrible, but she started studying cults. She ended up breaking free because everything that the book talked about, everything we're talking about, from isolation, emotional manipulation, identity control, all of that was prevalent, and she ended up getting out. So that was a difficult personal situation. And the reason I didn't tell it, I don't think that person has passed on. I don't think their family listens to this, but that's the only thing I was concerned about. But it is worth hearing because you're going to get a knock on your door. You better know who you are. And if you are a Christian, you need to know why you believe what you believe.
Right. No, I appreciate you sharing that story because it's, every family has someone, right? And they're put in this situation, maybe not this exact situation, but a situation similar at least once in their life, right? And so how you handle that means so much. So, and I'm just curious, I was thinking something, I had a question. The notes that he was leaving you, were those like psychobabble?
No, he was very intelligent. He was a little crazy all the time, his whole life. But it would be more scripture, like, you believe this, this is the truth.
So they were legible.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was an artist, so his cursive was immaculate. And he also could do calligraphy. So, yes, he was very bright, very bright.
You always wonder, when I worked at the bank and, we would get psychobabble letters all the time. And you can just tell generally by somebody's handwriting if they're mentally insane.
There's a lot of that, but no, he was the opposite. He was probably a genius. His son was a genius, for sure.
Oh, got it. Okay. So just that high intellect, but high IQ, maybe not IE.
That kind of leads us into the next thing. A lot of these cult members it's not stupidity and it's not weakness, it's just human psychology. People join because their core needs are being met. They're made to feel special. And I will tell you, Kristin, and you know this, but people have been abused, molested, manipulated, and things like that. They are fertile ground for these people to step in and be the savior.
Absolutely. I mean, you're talking about the core needs, the belonging, the certainty. The brain hates, and, I know this about myself as well, hates uncertainty.
Right.
And that's where general, anxiety is, the general anxiety that people get diagnosed with is fear of the unknown. And so that's that uncertainty that your brain hates. And cults provide clear answers, clear rules, and a structured worldview. So you can kind of understand from a psychological standpoint how this all plays out, right?
Yeah, and then, Kristin, there's this gradual commitment. Most people don't wake up one morning and go, I'm going to join a cult. Well, they don't use that word, but I'm saying it's gradual. But imagine you start to believe this charismatic leader, then you've got these other people making you feel special, and all of a sudden, you're like sheep. They're all saying the same thing, and they pull you right in. And of course, things start to turn dark a little later once you get involved. And there's so many stories.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I have one that I pulled out. It's so funny. I was just at my son's birthday party was over the weekend, and my mom and one of my friends were talking about local Pacific Northwest cults that happened. And my mom, lived in Portland in the late 70s, early 80s. And she was talking about really just living through the influence of these. Not that she was impacted, but just they were close in proximity. So let's bring it closer to home here. A lot of people think of these cults, and like you just mentioned, like we have the one in Zion. So what's that, like the Utah area? And, we see or we hear about even like the Amish, they do a lot of the shunning, and that could be seen as a cult in a sense as well. Yes. That's over Pennsylvania, that whole area. So here in the Pacific Northwest, I pulled a few, and this is in the 1980s in Wasco County. So it's a little bit outside of the Portland area that most people are familiar with. But there was a massive cult led by, and I'm going to slaughter his name, but his last, is that Ranesh? Ranish?
You're on your own this time, Kristin. No, I think it's Ranish.
Ranish. I'm just really bad.
If you just start calling me that, Ranish. Okay, go
Ranish. Oh, I'm going to be tempted. And then, okay, so it was led by him. So he's from India. He built an entire city, and it was Ranishpuram. And I hope I'm not slaughtering that one. But it wasn't small. This is like thousands of followers, and they all wore red and purple as part of their identity. And it became so much so associated with the group that people in the Portland area, my mom remembers, for a few years where no one wanted to wear red or purple. She's in fashion, right? So she was like, the red and purple sales went down because nobody wanted to be thought of as being part of this cult.
So what was the cult? What was their identity? Was it religious or?
Yeah. Okay. So that one is where I have to do a little more research on it, but they were isolated, but it was financial. It was a lot of, it was a greed component to it. So this one wasn't as much, the sex component was obviously there, that usually is, that comes with power, right? But this was financial abuse. And this guy ended up fleeing back to India, and his right hand, which was a female, right? That's actually pretty smart to have a female, because a lot of the people that followed him were female. Mm-hmm. But she was the one really driving this financial abuse, and she's the one that ended up going to jail for it when he just skirted back off to India.
When I saw Wasco County, I thought you were going to get into Waco, Texas with David Koresh. I was alive.
Oh, yeah.
I watched all of that unfolding with federal agents and the ATF agent getting shot. But yeah, they were in a school. They had their own community, which happens. That's that isolation we talk about and everything else. So,
oh my gosh. Well, the one I'm talking about, it's really interesting because his goal was to take over the city. And it got really nasty. He wanted to have his people in these city leadership roles. So there were bioterror attacks, voter manipulation, immigration fraud. Again, he came from India and brought a lot of people from India. So this wasn't just like different beliefs. This was coordinated control and power.
Sounds like New York City today.
Yeah.
And just no, this is yours. You take it.
No, you're fine. I was just thinking, it was funny. I was quiet there for a second because I was thinking they actually went as far as poisoning the water when the city did not go along with their plans. Yeah. So that's some serious stuff.
That's an in-your-face cult. All right.
Yeah, it really is.
Because you're getting into one that I have also listened to a podcast. If you can't tell, I'm really interested in cults, people.
Yeah, it is interesting, especially from a psychological component. Mm-hmm. So this one's in the Seattle area. Again, my mom brought this up because one of her best friends from high school, his brother joined it, and he was married off in it. So he was in it for like 10 years before he escaped. So Seattle area, it was another major movement, and it's what people call the Moonies. And it was founded by Sun Moon, and it was the Unification Church, and it became famous for something very public. They would have mass wedding ceremonies. And so my mom's friend's brother was part of one of these where like 1,000 people were married. Insane.
No, it's true. And his wife ended up taking over after he died. It's a unique story. That's another one that would be interesting, I think, for our listeners to check out. There's podcasts on a lot of these. We could go on and on and on about the big cults, even. I remember, I don't know if I heard it later, but I remember Jim Jones. Do you remember that? The Guyana tragedy. Well, he took a whole group and moved to another country. It's been a long time, but they drank that Kool-Aid, and that's where the expression comes from. It's like 7, they go, and there's already all those bodies, children and everybody.
Where were they? Was that South Africa or something?
They went to, I think it was Ghana, and they set up their own, I don't know if it was West Africa. It might have been South Africa. It's been a long time. Yeah. But can you imagine that he got those people to commit suicide? They all drink.
I know.
And that's why we have the saying, don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that's really bad. That one's very famous. And I remember watching a documentary they were on the grounds, a couple years later, and they were just talking about how there's almost like a haunting element to it. I mean, understandably, how many people died at the same time in that mass suicide? It's just insane.
I was a kid and I saw the images of all those bodies. It was like from a helicopter, and it stuck with me. I can remember. And I can remember in my mind going, why would you drink that? Or why would you give it to those little kids? It was gut-wrenching. But almost all of those cults you mentioned, they usually got sex. We know we've already given you the characteristics, but the one guy, he gets his choice. He does whatever he wants. Yeah. And they will do things. I remember David Koresh, like he made a woman come up and he goes, take your underwear off. And like,
oh my gosh,
do these power trips to show his authority. And it's just crazy. So we've established a pattern. We see what happens. It starts slow. It starts to build. Then you get control. You lose your identity. And then you become full-blown, brainwashing is a real thing. People get brainwashed, and they too start to believe these things. And it's why it's so hard for people to get out of cults, because they don't know they're in a cult. And they're kept away from family members and all that stuff. So anyway, let's look at a little more psychology.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's the pattern. Different style, same psychology. And let's make this real, because people hear cult and they think extreme, right? Let's bring it into the everyday home, Ron.
Well,
maybe not every day.
We mentioned the People's Temple. That was Jim Jones. The Heaven's Gate. Now, I thought that one was crazy. You remember they were waiting on Halley's Comet or something, and that ended in 39 deaths. But the NXIVM is kind of what they call it. I watched that because, I love Smallville. And that was the origins of Superman. And his best friend was the girl on Smallville. And if we weren't doing a podcast, I'd tell you her name. I just watched some on that, and that was a sex cult. This guy was supposed to be a motivational speaker. He was like me, Kristin, executive coach.
Wait, is he the one that branded them?
He branded them. That's exactly right.
Oh, my gosh. I saw one on that.
Well, the girl from Smallville actually started to be like one of his number one recruiters, and she recruited all these people. I just watched her. She came on a podcast, and the guy that played Lex Luthor, he had her on his podcast, and it was very interesting because, and you can tell, listen, you should have read the hate she got, but you can almost tell, because she would go, I can't really believe that was me. And if people study psychology, she probably can't hardly believe that was her. She was vulnerable. This guy preyed on her, and then she, number one, was sexually abused, and then she began to be a recruit. And when you're a recruit, by the way, you are esteemed. She was given authority. She was given resources and praise and all the things that most people desire.
Was she so she was financially, like she was provided for?
I would think so. I didn't
Kinda
hear
like an Epstein-esque.
I know she was given power and respect from it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I always wonder that because then you wonder, man, if they're getting paid to do something, that's not right.
Well, I know this cult started having financial problems, just like most other cults.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, no, that one I totally watched a documentary on that. I just remember, it's really hard for someone like me and probably for someone like you, Ron, just to say, how does someone go from this career to being part of a cult and letting someone brand you?
Yeah, and Kristin, Allison Mack is who I'm talking about from Smallville.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's another
Very
one.
interesting.
If you're listening and you like cults, you need to listen to that Axiom. It's great. Or watch it. There is like
Yeah, I watched
specials
one.
on it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, she ended up serving, by the way, 2 years prison. She just got out. Recently, she's gotten married. And but I was so intrigued with her mind to hear her, to see how she reflected on everything that she had done.
And was her jail sentence for the recruiting portion?
I'm trying to remember what her actual crime was. I think it might have been facilitating abuse, sexual abuse, or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah, very interesting. The reason I just find it interesting with the Epstein stuff, right? Because then you have some of those gals who are doing the same thing and they're only seen as victim. And now we have someone that did something very similar and they've gone to jail and been held accountable. So you just kind of wonder why the difference in handling.
Well, we're always going to have that, Kristin, but the Epstein, we did an episode on it, but it was like the cult of the elite. That's what I would call as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to human behavior, I always take the sides, especially of younger females, because I think he knew how to target people that had poor upbringings. But listen, no one talks about it. We don't really care. But like during the Me Too movement, these are grown adults who chose. I'm not talking about the ones that was trapped inside or anything like that. I'm saying some people thought, I'll sleep my way to the top. And that's a reality. People don't like to hear that, but it's true.
Yeah,
it happened.
It is.
But anyway, we digress. Let's move into why people stay. We've talked about why they get in, that sense of belonging and all that, and then they get controlled. And why would you stay if you're totally being controlled and you're probably not happy?
Yeah. I mean, it's right. It's like, because my mind goes, okay, so now you're in. Why don't you leave?
Yeah. And cognitive dissonance is something we talk a lot about, even in the business community.
Yeah.
But for a cult, it's like, I've invested all of this. I've put everything, and I'm distant from all the other voices, and it's harder to admit that you're wrong. Like, I'm just going to separate myself, and I'm focusing on this. Then you got isolation. We've talked about that. Fear. A lot of people go, why didn't you leave? These people are afraid. They've been told the outside world is a nightmare,
Yeah.
So, and we talk a lot about dopamine, but there's times they'll love bomb, then they withdraw it, and then they praise you, and then you get those dopamine hits.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel good. You believe in these people. This is the truth. I'm special. I belong. And you're getting dopamine from that, and they get accustomed to it.
Right, exactly. Oh my gosh. I mean, that's like, we see a lot of relationships where that's done on purpose. This is done in a mass setting, right? But I mean, people deal with that. I hear about love bombing all the time now. And the guy or gal that's doing it, they know what they're doing. So if you could be aware of that pattern, that would be great so that you don't become another victim.
Folks, you should go back and watch the episode on dark psychology. I will tell you this, when you talk about love bombing, manipulation is an art. And there are people that learn as a small child how to manipulate to get what they want, and then it just grows from there. But some people probably, they could be teaching in a PhD program. They're so good at it. So
seriously, they could teach something for the FBI.
Yeah. So
goodness gracious.
I told the story about the Jehovah's Witnesses, and it follows every bit of that belonging and exclusivity and all the things that they do. But the reason people stay is one of the biggest things is control, and of course you get this messianic figure, but they also, when you're there, you get locked out from the outside world. they will tell you things like the outside world is worse and worse, and you don't get enough contact. They tell you how your family members are blinded from the truth. They're pawns of Satan. They're going to take you down. So that's fed all the time. And when you don't get differing opinions, certainly you're going to lock in. You're going to lock into the cult, and you're going to do what you've been doing. So the reason they don't leave is literally they don't have the broad psychological ability to look at other angles. They don't see that. It's like there's an old story about, they opened a lion cage and the lion didn't leave the cage. So they had to coax it out. And that's similar. Even if there's an open door, they don't leave.
Right. Oh my gosh, this is so interesting. There's so many avenues that we could go down on this, Ron. And I think that's why it's so important that we're doing this high level episode as is, so that I think it's important for people to be able to recognize these behaviors, even if they're not coming from a cult standpoint, right? Like that's even just relationships. The more you know is going to help you avoid being a victim. And, I want to be clear, we're talking about behaviors, not attacking people. So when I brought up Epstein earlier, I'm not trying to attack, I'm trying to understand. I think that's important. And even talking about the Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, I had somebody on my team once. I don't know if you've ever had someone from that religion work for you. I used to celebrate all my team's birthdays, right? And I would have to have this person. They couldn't celebrate anybody's birthday. So when I would have the cake and sing my employee happy birthday, they had to go into the break room. I mean, so things like that, it's easy for me to be WTF.
That was one of the big arguments I had with this family member, because it's based on Herod. Remember when on his birthday they asked him what he wanted? He said, I want the head of John the Baptist. That's where that comes from. So I said, anytime something bad happened on any event, then you can't celebrate it. That was my rebuttal to him.
Yeah.
So let's look at some red flags. And this, by the way, we're transitioning to a leadership parallel. This happens in companies and businesses. There's even little cliques. I'm not going to call them a cult, but they're close. And there's something that I talked to someone about this week, Kristin, called confirmation bias. So you already know what you're looking for. And so you're going to find clips or whatever it is to confirm what you already believe. That's confirmation bias. We see that all the time. We see it in politics. We see it in religion, because there's all these different religions. We see it all over the place. So people, if you're not careful, you won't find the truth because you're looking for the wrong things. Confirmation bias. And then framing. You can frame something. This is the way I talk about relationships. If your best friend had an affair and everybody turns against her, you're still going to support your best friend. It's framed in your mind in a different way. Or you can be talking about someone and you can frame it to make them look good. You can frame it to make them look bad. Framing is a big thing in psychology that we've never really gone into. So here's some red flags when you're, folks, if you sense this is happening in your school, in your university, in your workplace, in your church, we're the only one who gets it. Now, a lot of times that's just two people. It's still cultish behavior, but they're not going to be, getting people to drink the Kool-Aid. But you'll hear statements like, we're the only ones that gets it. They discourage outside thinking, loyalty over truth. I don't care what they said, and that's why these leaders are able to do anything, because the loyalty is way above truth. If you look at some of the founders, even of Jehovah's Witness, he was a felon. The founder of the Muslim faith, you should read about him, married a 6-year-old. There's so many stories. Most of these cults have very flawed leaders, and we see that in the workplace. The insecurities play out. Fear-based culture.
Real quick, Ron, I want to piggyback on loyalty over truth, because this one, we are seeing this playing out, especially in the political arena, because right now we see the Republican Party is incredibly splintered, and that is because the Republican Party and conservatives generally, they're going to be truth over loyalty, okay? That's largely what I'm seeing. So you see a splintering because things are happening on the world stage and not every conservative thinks alike, okay? And so we're seeing a lack of loyalty, which is okay because it's all based in truth. Now, when you think about the liberal side of things, it's going to be loyalty over truth. And I don't care. I can argue till I'm blue in the face on that, because that is exactly what is happening. And that's why we hear the left cult or the LGBTQIA cult, because it is loyalty over truth, loyalty over fill in the blank, right? So it's happening everywhere.
No, it's true. And we do lean conservative, if you didn't figure that out, folks, and proud of it. So it is what it
Proud
is.
to be based in truth.
Fear-based culture, over-dependence on a leader. I always hate it. Chris and I both hate this. In our earlier episodes, we talked about brown nosers and how they get promoted because there's some insecure leaders. Even if they see through it, they just like it. You're right. Mm-hmm. And it is what it is. So
yeah. So, to your point, Ron, anytime you hear we are the chosen few, I literally was just watching, there's a new Netflix documentary. It's not even a documentary, I'm sorry. It's a series, and it's The Chosen. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole thing. We're the chosen ones, right? And it's supposed to be based on a real cult that took place. But, come on, folks, that's a red flag. That's control wrapped in identity. Real leadership will do the opposite. Real leadership should always encourage thinking, welcomes challenge, and builds people, not dependence.
Yeah, real leaders like other perspectives before they develop their perception. And that's one of the things you'll see. So anyway, Kristin, I think we've made our point. If you're listening, don't join a cult. That's what we're trying to tell you. Be an independent thinker. Be yourself. It's okay to join a group, but if they tell you not to speak to your mama, you better run.
Oh my gosh, yeah. There's real, like, what was it, like Twin Flame and all that weird stuff.
Oh my God,
like there.
That was a good one too. I think
that was so good.
I think I must love to watch cult stuff because I watched that as well.
That one was crazy because it's like when they started running out of people that had signed up for this dating site, they're like, we're turning them into lesbians if we only have female people that have signed up. All right, you guys are going to be a couple, So it was just crazy. And people went along with it.
They did. I think my twin flame's out there.
We should put this flame out right now.
You do, Kristin, every week. You do.
I can't believe it. And people go along with it. Yeah, sure. We don't have enough subscribers of the opposite sex. I'll just marry another chick.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. But they went along with it. Watch that one, folks. It's wild. It's a wild ride.
Everybody, we really appreciate you sticking with us. We try to have a little fun with this. We are who we are. But I hope you've enjoyed it. And remember, this stuff really does play out even in families, dynamics, churches, communities, and at work. So be careful when you get so exclusive other people can't take a peek in. And that's where the damage comes in. Absolutely. Anything else, Kristin?
What ones were we talking about, Ron? All right.
When we sign off,
plug your podcast again. Your sex harem podcast.
Oh, that was the Zionist community or something.
But what's the podcast called? It was.
Oh, why'd you do this to me right at the end? People are going, we finally stuck it out. Garden of Evil.
Garden of Evil. And then there's
the Society.
Chosen. That was really good. And what was the one I was just talking about? That one was
Alexium,
that one was crazy. Nexium.
We'll drop those into
Twin Flame.
That
one is insane. That's probably my favorite. But really crazy. So check those out, and you'll have a really good idea of what not to get into.
If you log on next week, Kristin, and I've shaved my head and I'm wearing a robe, you're going to know I tipped off.
If I'm wearing like purple and red.
If you're wearing purple and red. Join our cult, people, the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast.
Oh, my goodness. Well, thank you for tuning in. As always, please like, rate, and tell others about the podcast.
That's right. All right. Be the leader you're meant to be.
We'll see you next week.
The Dirty Side of Leadership podcast is brought to you by Forward Operations. If you'd like to book Ron or Kristin for speaking events, training, or executive coaching, visit forwardoperations.com. Be the leader you're meant to be.